Great to see you.
You too. It's been a while.
It has actually, 5 years since Ingrid Goes West.
Oh my God.
So last night was the first screening here of Emily the Criminal. How'd it go?
It was great. I was not there. I didn't watch it. But it sounded like it went great. I think it went great. I don't know. What are people saying? What have you heard?
I heard you were fantastic at the Q&A, but maybe I was late.
Oh yeah, the Q&A was funny.
Okay.
That was funny.
All right. The rest.
No, I think it played great.
Who knows?
I think it played great. It's interesting to see how people will react to the movie here because it's just very different, than American audiences. So
I guess, yeah, for people who've seen you and maybe know you certainly initially from comedy and stuff, it's actually a genuinely like gripping, unsettling thriller.
Yeah.
Which I think even compared to some of the other projects you've done recently, it kind of moves more in that sort of different direction.
Yes, I'm inching darker and darker, more violent. Who knows what I'll do next?
You're quite good with the taser.
Yeah, thank you. And second time that I've pepper sprayed someone in a movie, so I'm getting really good at that too.
So I guess we want to we'll talk about Emily the Criminal more later, obviously, because it's here.
Yeah, let's do
but
that
I
later.
wanted to kind of go back to kind of where you started, sort of origin story side of things. If people had seen you, I don't know, at school, high school, teachers, friends, whatever, would they have thought, this is somebody who wants to perform, who's naturally funny, who's kind of that way inclined, or was that something that wouldn't have been so evident at that time?
I think it was pretty evident. Definitely in high school. I think when I was a child, I was very shy and very quiet. And then I was introduced to community theater around 11 years old because my older cousin auditioned for a play there, and I just tagged along with her. I thought she was so cool. And once I saw kids auditioning for plays, I just started to realize, like, oh, wait a minute, that's like an outlet or something. And so then I started doing that, and then I just started to perform from there. But I think I was pretty outgoing in high school at that point. I was like a class clown, kind of rabble-rouser kind of person, always kind of doing whatever weird stuff.
So comedy was already like making people laugh, or you performing, but with a sort of comedic slant.
Yeah,
was already
I think
something.
so. Yeah, I think the first time I was introduced to comedy was I auditioned at the same community theater. I auditioned for the play Cinderella, and I really wanted the role of Cinderella. I really thought I was really going to get that part, which was really stupid. I would have never gotten that part. But I got cast as the ugly stepsister, and I was really bummed because I was like, why? How am I the ugly step? Like what? But then when I got into the play, I realized, like, wait a minute, I have the funny song. I have the funny song. I have the funny part. And the first time I performed that, I was 12 or something, and I got laughs from the audience. I realized, well, that's, the good stuff right there. Fuck Cinderella. It's boring.
I mean, tragic, but kind of boring,
Oh, yeah,
right?
sorry. Yeah, no,
kind of
no.
boring.
Sure, I wish her the best. I wish her the best. I just mean, you know what I mean. But
And once you sort of left high school, from what I've understood, you kind of got really interested in improvisation and sketch comedy, and you sort of then joined the UCB, the Chicago group, which is very prestigious, right, at the time?
yeah, well, I was very into improv comedy growing up. I was a real comedy nerd. I was really into sketch comedy shows and Kids in the Hall and Mr. Show and that kind of stuff. I was introduced to that as a teenager, and I was just really ambitious, and I was really into Saturday Night Live, and I was very, very obsessed with that show. And I remember just kind of constantly researching the cast members and trying to figure out how did they get on the show, what did they do first, and it always led back to this kind of Chicago improv comedy stuff, or the Groundlings or whatever, and that was kind of the first time that I was well, maybe I should do improv because maybe that, and then I just got really into comedy in general, I guess. I had a very lucky week, and I was out in Los Angeles for 1 week, and I was there because I was up for a part in Funny People, which is the Judd Apatow first movie I ever did. And the casting director, Allison Jones, who's casting that film, really took a liking to me and just said, well, while you're here, can I send you on some other meetings? And I was sure, I'll do whatever you want, lady. I don't know, whatever you want. I didn't have an agent at that time or anything, so I was just kind of I don't know what's going on around here, but these people want something from me. So she sent me to Parks and Rec that week to meet with Mike Schur and Greg Daniels. And they hadn't written the pilot yet, but I think they had like a sketched outline of what it was. And I don't know what I did in the meeting. Apparently I was like really weird, or I don't know what I did. I really weirded Mike Schur out, and I kind of collaborated with him on, kind of pitched him the character almost accidentally. I didn't realize the weight of the meeting at the time, but he kind of told me about the show, and he was thinking, oh, well, Amy's, her character is going to have an assistant. And I don't know why, I can't really remember, but I just kind of pitched him the idea of April, where I was like, well, if she's super positive, and she loves her job, maybe her assistant should be like an intern that like hates everyone and like hates everything, but is like good at her job, but just doesn't give a shit about anything she's doing or something. And I guess like under the table, he was like writing it down. I don't know. But then, and then Greg Daniels came in the room, and what I do remember about that meeting is Greg Daniels, because he's really weird in the best way. And he came in, and I don't know who asked the question, but we started talking about the meaning of life and what happens after you die. And I was like, dude, I don't know. And we went down this like crazy rabbit hole talking about what happens after you die. And I think Mike was just watching us like, what am I watching? Like, why are you guys talking about this? And so, yeah, something happened in that meeting. And then the next thing I heard was that they had written me into the show. And the first script I had, the character was named Aubrey. And then they obviously changed it, I guess, once they convinced the network to cast me. And then I had to audition to play myself. They changed it to April. And then they told me
completely different.
And then I had to audition to play April, and I was like, but I'm me. I'm playing myself. I hope I get the part, because like that'd be really bad.
I wrote this. I co-wrote this.
Yeah.
Wow. But so, and in this same week, this is the case, right? You got Funny People, you got what became Parks and Rec, and you got Scott Pilgrim
versus the World. Yeah, Edgar Wright.
All in 1 week.
That's
right. Actors
like
must hate you for this week. They're like,
I know, it was a really lucky week. I don't know what I did. You could ask Edgar. I think he might be here, but I'm not gonna put you on the spot. I don't even know if you're here.
There's a Q&A later. We can
whatever.
Can get
but Allison Jones. That's really the answer. She cast all three of those things, and she changed my life. I mean, truly, and she's changed a lot of actors' lives. It's really special. She's a very special lady to me.
I mean, Parks and Rec is one of those shows that not only was sort of beloved and, ran for many, many seasons, but it just had this incredible cast of many people who were not particularly well known at the time, who've gone on to not just big acting careers, but show running and writing and producing. I know it was your first sort of main gig in that sense, but when you're there making it, is there any sense that when you're there, that like, this is a really special bunch of people, or you just didn't have enough to compare it by at that time?
I think we all knew it was special. I think it really trickles down from the top. Like Amy kind of had that energy, and she's such a great leader, and she had such a positive vibe and such a gracious vibe. Like I think we all felt like, I don't know what's going on here, but it's definitely special and rare. Also, everyone's just genuinely very funny, so we were all just cracking each other up all the time. And I think when Parks and Rec was originally airing, if I'm not mistaken, our ratings were terrible. Like, we thought we were going to get canceled the first couple seasons. Like, we were kind of the underdog, like Modern Family, I think, was kind of the popular show at the time. And we kind of always felt a little scrappy. But I think that actually was probably good, because we were just so grateful to have that job. And I think looking back on it, it's just like you can't compare. It's like it'll never happen again, I don't think. But I think we knew it was special at the time, I think.
Right. I mean, there are so many standout characters and actors in it, but I think April Ludgate really meant a lot to a lot of people. And I'm interested because the thing that always comes up, I think it was even in the festival catalogue, which I didn't write myself, but this sort of the persona that she has, and the kind of sardonic and sarcastic thing that seems to kind of follow you to a degree in other roles, or people's perceptions of it. And I'm just really interested in your take on that, because she is a certain way, and she has, like you said, she doesn't care.
Yeah.
And so obviously you're playing that. But did you get a sense that this was sort of filtering into like a bigger perception of you as well as the character, and then into other roles that's followed?
I think it's kind of like, it's a cycle that kind of feeds on itself, because the first parts that I got, you know, they were all kind of in that zone, like this kind of like deadpan zone or whatever. And I'd say that wasn't the thing that I was known for. When I was performing at the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York, I was doing all kinds of characters. I wasn't known as, you know, like, oh, she's like the sarcastic, like eye-rolling like girl or whatever. Like, that wasn't my thing necessarily, but I could do it pretty good. And I think a lot of it was inspired by my younger sisters at the time, who were more like April Ludgate in real life than me. And then I think, like, I don't know, I think there's like an unconscious kind of thing when people kind of project something onto you that you almost like give it back in a way. And then I truly think I just did I think I probably just did too much publicity or something. I was on too many talk shows where I was out of my mind. And then kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't know what happened, but I guess I was weird on talk shows. And then that kind of like fed into it as well, where people just kind of assumed like, that's just, you know, that's just who you are, or something. And it is a little bit, I mean, for sure it is, but that's a character, you know, it's a heightened version of me. I mean, every character I play has a part of that,
Sure.
because it's me, and I'm bringing me to the table. But I would say, like, yeah, I'd say I'm much different than April Ludgate than people probably would expect.
Yeah.
But I didn't shy away from that at the time, and I think when you're on TV for 7 years playing the same character, people just kind of, they get so used to seeing you that way. So it just kind of, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's interesting to people's perceptions.
Sure. And I guess, I mean, I don't know how much you go into the whole YouTube rabbit hole and stuff, but talk show appearances and stuff, they get almost compiled sometimes, and there's all kinds of weird, like, oh, look, this person's doing that. But then maybe it's just your own, you know, feeling not comfortable being on a show, and therefore that kind of elicits a certain response that then feeds into this whole thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I feel like I'm better at it now, but like, I think talk show appearances are kind of the opposite of improv shows, where, you know, when you do improv and you learn like the art of improv, the worst thing you can do is plan a joke. Like, you can't plan a joke. That's like a no-no. And so talk shows, like, they short circuit my brain. I don't know why, but it's like planning a story or like planning a joke or something. It feels so wrong to me that, like, I try to do it every time. Like, every time I do a show, I just tell myself, like, just be normal this time. Just do it and get out. Like, just be like Tom Hanks, you know? Just sometimes I watch him, I'm like, he's so comfortable. Like, he's smiling and everything seems great. But anytime I'm in the moment, something happens where I just go off script. It's almost like I'd rather have an uncomfortable moment, because it just feels real, over having like a pleasant, fake moment or something. Sure. But it's not on purpose, and I would never try to, like, you know, make someone else uncomfortable. It's really my own, like, defense mechanisms, sure. Just like put on a live television, just displayed for everybody to watch over and over again late at night on YouTube. And it's not on purpose.
The crazy thing.
I swear to God, I try to do it right every time, and I just fuck it up every time.
I mean, it's interesting you say that some of the early roles kind of fell into this similar territory as April. We're going to look at another kind of, I guess, an early film that I think was certainly was a success, and maybe another kind of breakthrough, where I think that I can see links to some of the previous roles, but I think there's a lot more going on as well. So maybe we can chat about that next. So we're going to look at a clip from a film called Safety Not Guaranteed.
Do you sell guns here?
What kind of guns?
I don't know. Something sexy and affordable with killing power?
You should try CNR guns in Wilkins. The state of Washington does not allow the sale of firearms on the business premises of a grocer.
What about those thingies with the spiky ball on the end of the chain? Thingies, you know, Do you have those?
What exactly is the intended use? Is there a pest problem or hunting?
Well, if your ad had been written properly, I may have a better idea of what I need.
My ad?
Yeah. It's pretty sloppy.
Excuse me?
You heard me. I hope you worked harder on your calibrations.
My calibrations are flippin' pinpoint, okay? There are people after me. How do I know you don't work for them?
Because I've never worked for anybody in my life.
You ever face certain death?
If it was so certain, I wouldn't be here, would I?
This is a bad place to talk. I got off in like 15. Rendezvous?
See you in 8.
I mean, that film seemed to do. I mean, it's a lovely film, but I think a lot of the people who were in that got a real boost from that, right? The cast and
Just a little bit.
and the director Colin Trevorrow, who went from that straight to like Jurassic Park.
Yes, he did.
Movies, which is pretty good. When you got that script, because like I say, some of the mannerisms and some of the sort of the way that you're performing, you know, there are connections to some of the earlier roles, but the character herself, for people who've seen it, there's a lot of sadness and there's a lot of the reason why she might actually want to go back herself is kind of in there. I'm just wondering, was that something that felt like different for you when you first read it and that was really appealing to then take on as a project?
Yeah, totally. That was my first lead role in a movie, so it was the first time that I ever got to kind of construct a character from the beginning to the end. Like, up until then, I'd only done smaller parts, so it was a huge opportunity for me to, like, you know, dive a little deeper and create a fully realized person.
And that whole experience of being like the lead rather than kind of coming in, being funny and supporting stuff, did that feel like it was at that point a natural step, or did you feel when you first like, whoa, this is actually a big jump up, or did you feel kind of ready for that next kind of phase, if you like?
It was so long ago, honestly, I don't even remember, but I think I probably both, you know? I don't know. I was so ready to do, I love movies. Like, I was so obviously excited to be on Parks and Rec and be on a television show, but I really just love movies. And I've always wanted to be in movies. And so I think it felt very natural for me, but of course it was like a huge deal, and I was probably scared out of my mind, but also I think it's kind of what I always wanted to do. So I was excited to start, really.
Yeah, not a bad film for a first lead role, right?
Yeah, not bad, right?
One of the things that I kind of was mentioning in the introduction was the sort of unpredictability that I don't think that many performers bring, but you really do. And I'm just interested, when you're on a set, is that something that it's just in the moment, or do you feel like, I'm just interested how that manifests with your cast members? There's a particular film and a particular actor I'm going to talk about that, but I just wanted, before we go into specific examples, do you feel like you have to have that sort of thing on the set as well, or is that just when the cameras are on?
What do you mean?
Well,
Like, am I crazy?
no, well,
What
you
are you
say
saying?
Crazy. I think that's very pejorative.
Sorry,
But
no.
You made a film called Dirty Grandpa with Robert De Niro,
Yeah.
and the story that I heard, and
Oh, God.
again, you can tell us it's true, is that he was getting weirded out by your behavior in general. So I was like, does
Oh,
that mean off
Bob.
camera? Is that
Yeah, it
that
was
just the
off
character?
camera.
Is that more than
Well,
that?
first of all, we didn't, okay. First of all, I didn't really have a relationship with him off camera because he's him, you know, and that movie, I auditioned to get that part, and I really wanted that part, and I had I really created the character for myself there, and I had an agenda, and I wanted to make the most of it. And I'm working with De Niro. I'm acting with De Niro. I'm playing his love interest. Like, there's nothing's gonna stop me. I will lose my mind on this thing. And, but I didn't get time with him. There wasn't time to get to know him or anything like that. And he kind of shows up in a puff of smoke, you know, when he's shooting, maybe just on that movie, but there's no like chatting at the water cooler.
No.
You know, when he shows up, it's time to shoot, which is fine. But, you know, by the time he'd show up, I'm in character, you know. And my character had one goal, which is to have sex with him. That's it. That was my motivation. And I'm wearing a wig in the film. I don't look like I do in real life in the film. In real life, my hair was chin length, short. I was acting totally, you know, insane as the character because we were about to shoot. And I, you know, stay in character because that's what I do. So I don't think, understood that that wasn't me. You'd think he would because he's an actor and he's a great actor.
He's kind of method, right?
But I'd say like the most amazing thing that happened with, yes, one of my agents did call me very early on in the shoot and say, hey, you know, we heard from, you know, down through the grapevine, you know, Bob's a little, you know, he's a little freaked out. What's going on over there? And I was like, I'm just doing my job, man. I'm just doing my part. I was all over him because I wanted to drum up chemistry, you know, and I was really going for it. And I'd say after like a month or two of shooting, and in most of our scenes were, you know, we're like making out or we're saying dirty stuff to each other. It's like ridiculous. And then like halfway through the shoot, he invited the cast over to his bungalow for Sunday lunch or something. And I showed up and he didn't know who I was. And I'd made out with him multiple times at that point because I wasn't wearing my wig and I wasn't acting, you know, insane or whatever. And he's like, who are you, sweetheart? I'm like, it's Lenore. Bob, it's me. And then after that, he loved me. Like, he loves me. Like, we really got along. And I think he, like, it clicked for him at that point that he was like, oh, like, you're just, you know, you're just being the character. I'm like, yeah, because I don't see
That's what he does,
like,
right?
That's what you do. And that's what you do, and that's what I'm doing. So, yeah. So, but at first, yes. At first, I think I came on really strong. Really strong. I did some questionable things that I probably wouldn't do anymore. Never in a million years would I say it out loud. But I'll just say I went for it.
You see, because I heard that, I thought that was probably very particular to that character in that film. That, you know, because I think there's that thing about being unpredictable and kind of going for stuff within the working environment versus just being kind of a loose cannon on a project. You know what I mean? I didn't imagine
I'm always
that.
a loose cannon, but I think it's really whatever the character is, whatever the job is. It's like, you know, that informs how I am. I think off camera too.
Okay.
I can't help it. It's just how I am. But
because one of the things I think is very sort of noticeable and really characteristic of a lot of your work is you often make a big impact, no matter what the size of the role. But I always get the sense that you're still very much like a team player, and you do a lot of kind of projects where it's real ensembles. I mean, you've played leads, obviously, but it seems, I don't know, is that, you know, that ensemble, maybe going back to improv or Parks and Rec, just does that sort of a dynamic that you still really, really enjoy, but you can still do your own kind of
totally. I love ensembles, and it's a total improv thing because, you know, that's the difference between improv comedy and stand-up. It's like improv, you're relying on your scene partner. It's a collaboration, and I love collaboration. I love it so much. It's so fun to tee up somebody else to be funny too, you know. I get just as much satisfaction out of that as, you know. So yeah, I love working in a group.
Because you've done several projects with your now husband, Jeff Boehner, who writes and directs. And there's a kind of like a rep company feel to a lot of your projects, right? A lot of the same actors reoccur. I mean, doing very completely different parts and characters. But, you know, yourself and Alison Brie and Molly Shannon, sometimes John C. Reilly. So is that when, I don't know how those projects come about, if Jeff sort of originates them or if you kind of collaborate on them, but then is it like, can we get these other guys back? Is that part of the appeal of those sort of things?
I think I would say that's all Jeff. Like, I mean, all of those people have become like a family to me now, but I think that was his instinct. Like the first movie that he directed that I was in was called Life After Beth, and John C. Reilly and Molly Shannon played my parents in the movie, And
you play a zombie, right?
and I play a zombie.
Just again, for people who haven't seen.
And that was his first movie. And then I think that's just how he is. I think he loves the people. If he loves an actor that he works with, it's like he gets really excited about them, and then he wants to do it again. And that's just how he is. And then I think, you know, it's like, it is kind of like, it feels like we're like a little theater group or whatever. And it's just fun. It's fun to work with the same people over and over again. And I just think that's how his brain works.
Yeah. And because you guys have worked together now several times over quite a few years, and am I right in thinking the first film you produced was one of his, right? The Little Hours, or would you produce?
Yeah, that's my first. Yeah, that's.
So
the
I'm
first.
just fascinated in the dynamic of that, because I guess when you started out, you were acting in a project that he wrote and directed,
Yeah.
and then later on, you're kind of producing. So I'm just fascinated how the dynamic works then between you as a couple, but then you've got a different role than you had in the beginning, and how that sort of works out between you two.
It's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's tough, you know, like working with your partner is complicated, you know, in any field, I think. But I think me taking on the producerial role, at least in that movie, was just an organic kind of thing. Like, I kind of have always been involved in his movies in that way, but I just never had the credit really for it. But like, it's complicated, you know. When it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's really bad. But
who gets the kind of veto power, like producer or director, in those kind of scenarios, or is it fluctuating?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's the only time. That's the only time I produced a movie with him. So.
Okay. Oh, you didn't spin me around as well.
No, I don't know. I'm just an actor in that.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I mean, we want to talk about your kind of move into producing, and so we'd like to show a clip from, I think, one of the first movies you produced as well, Ingrid Goes West. Do people know Ingrid Goes West?
Yeah.
Fantastic film and an amazing performance from Aubrey in that. The setup is, or do you want to explain the premise? You can do it better than I can.
Oh my God.
I can do it otherwise.
Do it.
No,
my brain is broken.
It's a very damaged young woman who is sort of obsessed with, you know, getting people to like her on social media, and follows a kind of influencer and basically kind of stalks her and tries to integrate into her life. Would you?
Yes,
is that fair?
I love it.
Okay, great. Such a anxiety-inducing film.
I know.
I mean, brilliant, but so anxiety-inducing.
I know, it's painful. It's like painful. That character is like, ugh. Feel bad.
How did you get involved with that? Did you come across the script and then look at it as an acting gig and then a producing gig, or were you sort of already looking for something to be involved in production-wise?
That was the second movie that I produced, but that's the second movie I have a producing credit on, but the first movie that I'd say I really, really produced, like from the very beginning to the very end, had my hands all over it. I remember reading the scripts. I got it through my agent, kind of like a normal way, but I knew the director, and I remember just like reading it, and my brain just kind of lighting up, and I just felt like, oh, I just saw the whole movie. I see exactly how this could be good. I got really fired up about it, and I aggressively got a meeting with Matt Spicer, who was a co-writer and director in the movie, first-time director, and I just demanded that he cast me and that I produce it. I basically just aggressively, I like the character, in fact, just stalked him, and I think he, you know, was probably going to meet with other people, and maybe he did, but I was just I was very determined to not only act in that movie, but to be a producer on it so that I could have more influence over the movie, because I had a really strong feeling about it, and I just felt like I understood how to make it good. And we were totally on the same page in that first meeting, and it was clear that like we had the same kind of sensibility and vision, and then he said yes, and then we were like off to the races after that.
So did you have an influence casting-wise? Because I mean, your performance is really spectacular, and I'm amazed that those sort of performances don't get recognized more awards-wise, because the kind of shifts that Ingrid goes through, and you kind of loathe what she's doing, and then you feel absolutely dread and
Yeah.
horror and pity for her, and it's an amazing character arc. But did you get involved with, like, because everyone in it is great, Elizabeth Olsen and Billy Magnuson and
Yes.
Shea Jackson. Was that something that then you could kind of influence who
Yes,
you wanted to be with you?
100%. Yeah, cast is everything. It's everything. It's so important to get the right people. So we honestly, we got like all of the people that we wanted, like our dream people we got. I don't know how we made it happen, but we were really lucky. And getting Elizabeth Olsen was key, because like I see that movie as like my king of comedy or something, where I was like, if I'm De Niro, she's Jerry Lewis, and it's like she's got to, that character has to, the actress that plays that part has to be, like the character, like, and in my opinion, Lizzie Olsen is kind of like that in real life. She's so incredibly beautiful and kind, and you just can't believe a person could be so perfect. And it's like, it just doesn't work with everyone, like it has to be really specific. So that was huge for us, the cast. It was everything.
The whole kind of social media trap, I guess, and the Instagramming and the kind of likes and the looking for approval thing, was that something that I'm sure you responded to it in the script, but did it reflect in any way your kind of engagement with it, or people that you saw around you? Because it gets really toxic really fast, but you can see why Ingrid herself
You
gets
mean
so
like
drawn into
social
it.
media?
Yeah,
culture
I
and
just
stuff?
remember, so we had Ingrid Goes West at the festival, and I was doing the Q&A with Aubrey and Matt Spice, the director, and I think the afternoon of it, I just tweeted that you were coming, and I used your Twitter handle, which is
Evil Hack.
Evil Hag.
Yes.
And I got bombarded with messages like, is Aubrey coming? Please confirm she's going to be there. And it
Really?
got a little bit sinister, and it wasn't even about me. So I just don't know if your experience of that whole world is something that you then wanted to kind of talk about or reflect in the film.
Yeah, I think the film is like, man, it was like ahead of its time. Instagram, like influencer culture was kind of just beginning, I think, when we made this movie. Like, obviously social media was a thing, but but how it is now is like, in the movie really it's scary how much it kind of came true. And I wasn't really involved in social media at that time. Like, neither was Elizabeth Olsen. We didn't even have Instagram at that time, and I was really against it. But we never wanted the movie to be like an indictment on social media. It wasn't meant to have some like political message or anything like that. But it was more like kind of Ingrid, to me, was kind of the personification of this like urge that I think most everybody has, which is like the urge to be on social media and to whatever that urge is, that kind of like dopamine hit that you get when you
I'm here,
go on
recognize
and
me,
you get liked or you like things. And I don't know, like to me that the character was like relatable in that sense, because it felt like this is like, she's like represents an entire generation of people that have this urge to like, I don't know, like do that. And I always felt like it was bad, like it was bad. There was something bad about it, and I guess we were right. I don't know, but it seems like it's gotten completely out of control.
And then afterwards, you got an Instagram account.
I know. That's the thing that is so ironic and it's kind of scary, is that I never had Instagram until I started promoting the movie. And I almost did it ironically. I got on Instagram to promote the movie, and I'm still on it. Now I'm trapped. And
It's a prophetic movie.
and I can't believe it. Yeah. I think there's like there's a thing that happened with it that's this kind of professional. It's like it's my own. It feeds on itself. It's like it's as a professional. As a producer, honestly, I view it as a tool. It's a way to show people the things that I'm doing. I like that aspect of it.
Sure.
But all the other stuff I really don't like, and I think about just quitting every day, but I don't, because I'm just I just want that dopamine hit. I don't know.
Talking about using it as a tool, like as a producer, given it, like you said, it was the first one you really wanted to have a big impact on was, what were the massive challenges that you faced on it? Because, I think any independent film is almost like a bit of a miracle at times, right? Just to get the money and the people and everything about it. So what were the things that really hit home for you about the challenges, about just doing that step into the production side?
Every day was a disaster. I mean, pretty much everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I mean, I could probably say that about every movie that I've produced, but that's just how it is. That's the fun of independent filmmaking. It's like, that's what's fun about it. I mean, it's so hard when you're in it, but there were crazy things. You just can't, especially shooting in Los Angeles. I don't remember, because I'm not on the press tour for that movie now, but I don't remember how many days we shot that movie, but it wasn't much. I would guess 23 days, 24 days, I have no idea. Maybe we got a little bit longer than that, but shooting in LA is pretty tough, you know. It's really expensive, and there was just so many unforeseen obstacles, and I think it was the first time too that I was really taking on that role really, and then also, you know, playing Ingrid and having to kind of toggle back and forth, and that was a lot, because it's kind of switching, you know, literally taking my wig off. I wear a wig in that movie as well, and literally just taking the wig off at the end of the day and kind of putting my producing wig on, and then dealing with the next, you know, what disasters are we trying to prevent the next day, but then also, you know, understanding that I have to be in it. But it was, Matt Spicer on that movie was great, because he allowed me the space, you know, during the day when we were shooting to just be the character and just focus on the performance.
To be honest, I wanted to ask you that, because as far as I can remember, everything you've produced, you've been in as well, right?
Yeah.
In movie-wise. So was there ever a sense on any of those projects, but particularly with that, because it's your first one, it's like, why didn't I just act, or why didn't I just produce this? Or was it like, come on, just bring it all on?
No. I mean, that's the fun of it, I think, is having control over the parts that I get to play, because I'm not, you know, I fought to get that movie and to get Matt Spicer to let me do it and stuff, like, and you know, I'm just not the kind of person that likes to sit around and wait for the, you know, perfect thing to fall into my lap. So I think part of the reason why I wanted to produce all of those movies is also as an actor, because I want to play the part, and I want to have control in the outcome of the movie. Like, I want my opinion to matter, contractually.
Did you feel like in earlier projects, even if you were a lead, there's a real risk that your voice doesn't get to kind of have the influence it should have? Was it kind of from those experiences, okay, right, if I produce, then I can kind of shift that balance?
Yeah, I mean, totally. You know, I have really great ideas, and so it's nice to really get to, change the final product, to really have an effect on the final product of the movie. You know, I love it. I'm such a huge, I love movies, like, more than anything. So I'm just such a nerd. I just love every part of the process, all of it. So.
Okay, but that's hopefully a really good way to cue up the next film we're gonna look at and talk about, which is a film called Black Bear. Have people seen Black Bear? Yeah, again, amazing. But because I guess it's about creativity and the creative process as well, but in a really amazing and strange way. So I won't say too much about it. Could we run the next clip from Black Bear, please? Thanks.
Hey, you're Allison?
Yeah, you're Gabe? That bag has wheels.
Oh, it's fine, it's light. So you're a film director?
Mike told you that?
Oh, I mean, I'm right. No, Mike didn't say anything. Just the vibe I'm picking up.
Oh, that's funny. What else did he tell you about me?
No, nothing. He said, you used to be an actress and now you're a director. I swear to God. Why'd you give it up? Acting?
I didn't. I think people just sort of stopped hiring me, maybe. But I'm actually happier doing what I'm doing. At least now I can eat cookies sometimes.
What was it? Were you difficult?
Man, you're nosy. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't attractive enough.
Oh, yeah. Mike mentioned that you like to fish around for compliments.
Well, that is not true. I do not like compliments.
Well, I don't think that's why I stopped.
You really don't need to prove anything to me. I prefer weak, sickly men.
Is that what your husband's like?
I don't have a husband.
No? 'Cause Mike said that your husband was going to be joining
Yeah,
you.
I thought you told me everything you said about me. I don't have a husband. No one's joining me, Gabe. I'm all alone in this world, okay? Happy? Any other questions?
A few.
I bet.
Okay, I was happy to have a go at summarizing Ingrid Goes West. I couldn't for the life of me do the
Oh God, me
25-word pitch of that.
know.
Black Bear, how do you describe that?
I describe it as, for me, it's like two nightmares combined into one mega nightmare. It's like, I mean, that's kind of what it is for me, honestly. But it's about the creative process, I think. It's about kind of, it's about the madness of making independent films and the complications that arise when you are married to the director. That's one way to describe it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, it's a great film and so clever and interesting and really messes with your head. But watching it again just before this, it just seemed like an incredibly grueling pair of performances for you, because you, again, I don't want to give it away for people who haven't seen it, but all the characters actually go through a complete transformation sort of second time around. I'm just interested in how the experience was, because as you say, you're drawing on presumably things that you've experienced yourself making films with collaborators, the difficulties, but it's all up there as well. I'm just fascinated how that whole experience was for you. At times you're like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's honestly, it's like uncomfortable to even talk about it. It was really painful, and grueling is definitely a word for it. We shot in a very remote location in the Adirondacks, about basically kind of like 30 minutes off of a main road at the lake house. We had no money, very little money, and, small crew, and no cell service, and the threat of actual bears, and just, again, disaster every day, just some kind of production disaster. But I'd say the grueling part for that movie for me more was the psychological element to it. I think it was such an immersive shoot because we were kind of living in the environment that we were shooting in, and the lines were real blurry. Being able to kind of exist in that environment and then shoot in that environment. And if you haven't seen the movie, there's two parts to the movie, and the second part is we introduce kind of the crew that's making the movie. Some of the people that are on the screen were actual crew members that I yanked on screen and gave them lines, and they were the crew. But then all of a sudden they're in the movie. So it was meta on meta on meta, and there were times that I didn't know, that I couldn't even figure out what camera was real, because there was a fake camera that the movie crew was using to shoot me playing the actress, or shooting the movie within the movie, and then there's the real camera and the real crew. And at a certain point, I just kind of gave up and surrendered to that. And I'd say that was the first. And also, my character in the movie, there's a turn in kind of halfway through, or a little bit, maybe more than halfway through, where she decides to get very, very drunk, and very drunk. And we shot nights for about 3 weeks straight. And for, I would say, like a large half back portion of the movie, my character is extremely drunk and extremely upset. And I'm shooting a movie at the same time. So I'm going in and out of kind of being, playing really drunk, and then also acting in a fake movie within the movie, and while I'm also having complications with my husband who's shooting the movie. That was a lot, psychologically, but also physically, because I remember I had to kind of really just fling my body around for weeks, nights after night after night, and it was a lot. It was just I pretty much just totally broke down, and I just kind of surrendered to the whole to the whole process. And it was probably one of the first time that I felt like I had real kind of transcendent moments when I was shooting where
Yeah.
I just, it just felt real at some points. It was just like it was really happening.
Well, I kind of wondered if there was any sort of cathartic element to it, because some of it feels so raw. Like even that scene when he's asking, you know, why didn't you act anymore? It's like, well, maybe they didn't like me. You know, I'm just wondering if you kind of deliberately were drawing on things that you'd experienced, heard, felt about yourself, because it feels like it's just everything is up there. You guys didn't leave anything behind in terms of your own maybe experiences of working in independent film or film in general.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write the script of Black Bear. Larry Levine wrote it, who directed it, who's also who's married to an actress, and he's made films with his wife. And the film was kind of born out of some discussions that we had about how complicated it is to work with your partner. So, you know, some of that stuff was Larry's stuff, and some of that stuff was my stuff, and it was kind of a combination of, and a really heightened, extreme version of stuff. But I would say, in general, like every movie for me is a catharsis. Every movie for me is an opportunity to work out some kind of issue, something in my life. That's part of why I love acting, is because it's more than just a job for me. It's a way to make sense of my life.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen Black Bear, I'd highly, highly recommend it. It's a bit of a head screw in a good way.
No, I remember. It definitely is.
It kind of brings us on to the film that you're here with the festival with, Emily the Criminal, which I guess is another sort of departure. I mean, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. It's really like a kind of gritty social thriller, I guess.
Yeah.
What was it? I mean, I guess you read the script and then you felt that this was something you wanted to be in and produce because is there an element because you haven't done something like this before, or is it just responding to material? Or are you also kind of thinking, yeah, this is like, there are some funny lines in it, but it's not a comedy, which I think like people who know your work may be surprised at.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing as Ingrid Goes West, where I read the script. It's an excellent script. It's such a good read. And I remember I was given the script by a colleague of mine who I was working on a different project with, and he kind of just gave it to me because he thought I'd like it. And I had the same feeling that I had with Ingrid, where I saw the whole movie in my head. I just saw the whole thing. And what excited me at first was just the potential to make a great movie. I just felt like if we shoot the script, if we somehow shoot the script, like this is undeniable, it'll be good. And then secondly, the character was definitely a character that I haven't played before, and I really like the idea of playing someone from New Jersey, doing an accent. I'd never done that before. I'd never worked with a dialect coach before, and kind of doing a character that's more physical. I haven't had many opportunities to do that either, and I like the genre kind of thriller of it all. Like, I love those kind of movies, and so it just kind of checked off all the boxes for me.
It's like you said, very physical role, right? There's car chases, fight scenes.
Yes.
I mean, what else? Like stalking people. It's pretty full on.
Yeah, it's full on.
There's a very interesting whole sort of subtext. I mean, it's not even subtext. I guess it's text in that she is a young woman who's accrued a huge amount of debt from college or studying. And because she's had a sort of a minor criminal record, there's just so many strikes against her in the system. And it's just like almost impossible for her to kind of get on. And so that's why she sort of resorts to this opportunity. Is that something that you kind of observing as more and more of a problem in the States particularly, but just, there's just, the system is kind of stacked against a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, the system is broken. It's just broken, and it has been for a long time. I think, this movie was written a long time ago, to a lot of people's surprise, because it feels so timely. Unfortunately, it just still is timely because we're still in that place in our country. Yeah, I mean, there's an entire generation of people that are just drowning in student loans, and with no way out, you know. And I think it's just the movie's great because it's so specific. It's about something very specific that I think a lot of people can relate to, but it's not. Again, it's like Ingrid. It's not trying to have some kind of political message, but I think it does really speak to like a major issue, which, and it's timely that Biden, you know, came out recently to forgive, you know, a certain amount of student debt, but which was crazy that the movie was also in the theaters at the same time, but it just shows you that, like, you know, we're still there, because John Ford, who wrote the script and directed it, he wrote it a long time ago, and he wrote it because he graduated from art school with a ton of debt, and did the job that my character does, catering jobs and just different jobs to try to get his head above the water. And,
I thought you were going to say credit card scam for
nope,
a minute. I was
nope,
like, wow.
Nope, he
He
did
should
not
be a
do credit card
producer.
fraud. He just knows how to do it, and so do I. But I wouldn't. No, we wouldn't do that unless we had to. Unless things don't work out. But
What did you make of the character? Because she's really fascinating. Because she's obviously, you know, a survivor, but her sort of affinity for these kind of where she goes and the sort of dark side of the journey that she goes on. What did you make of her? Like morality wise, or just as a sort of fascinatingly complex figure?
Yeah, it kind of really reminds me of the movie Straight Time, you know, with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
It's a 70s LA movie. But I think about that movie a lot because, not to make it about that movie, but what's so great about that movie is that when it's, you know, you see someone get out of jail and you think like, okay, this movie's going to be the story of this guy going straight, you know, getting a normal job and, you know, existing in the system, and then you realize at the end of it that he could have done that, but he's going to do crime again because that's just who he is. And that's kind of like Emily, for me. You kind of realize as the movie goes on and after you see the decisions that she makes that, like, you know, she's surviving, she's doing the best she can. She is, you know, doing these things for money, but also there's something else going on, brewing underneath. And you kind of get the sense that this is just who she is. She's just naturally drawn to criminal activity. It's just some people are. Some people, you know, it's quite a rush, you know.
It's like the risk take. There's some
Yes,
risk
you know,
taking.
the adrenaline, the whatever it is, and she's good at it. So it's a character study, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like, again, such a departure, even from things like Black Bear and Ingrid Goes West. And it just seems that you're kind of constantly finding completely different projects. So you've got a Guy Ritchie action film coming up as well, is that right?
Yes, and actually I shot that before Emily the Criminal. So
Oh, yeah?
technically, that's like my first action movie, but it hasn't come out yet, but it will.
Bit more comedic maybe than
Definitely,
than
yeah,
this.
definitely a comedy. Yes, I've seen it. It's very funny.
And I mean, do you, because of the producing and, you know, having a bigger voice in the projects you're working on, does directing feel like a kind of natural next step, given that that's the sort of, you know, the final voice a lot of the time, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I want to direct. I'm just very precious about it because, and I've been offered to direct a lot at this point, but I just feel strongly that I want to direct something that I've written myself, and I have written something that I will direct, but it's just, you know, I'm just very busy, you know. I just really don't have the time right now, but I'll get there.
I wanted to finish off by just saying, please just tell us everything that you know about Francis Coppola's Megalopolis that you're in. If you can just do that for us, that would be great. Spill it all.
Okay, so Adam Driver I don't know. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I haven't even shot that movie. I'm scared. I don't want to get fired before I even start. Don't you
All right, we'll leave it
get
there.
me in trouble
We'll leave
now.
that. Okay. We were going to throw some questions open to the audience.
I mean, it's interesting you ask me that now because I feel like watching that clip from Ingrid Goes West was like, actually, like, I wanted to cry. I felt very like, ugh. I think I would say if I had to pick, up against the wall, I would say Ingrid Thorburn. I don't know why. There's just something so like painful about that character, and I think, I don't know. That was a hard one to shake off, and maybe I haven't totally yet. But yeah.
Did it always end? I won't spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but did it always end the way it does end, or was there ever a discussion about a different thing? Because it's well, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
If I remember correctly, and I have a terrible memory, I believe it ends how it was supposed to end in the script. There were many discussions about the ending. Endings of films are, so interesting when you get to that point, because everybody, has an opinion, but ultimately, it's up to the director. It's their movie, and they should end it how they want to end it. But there were definitely discussions about how different versions of the ending, for sure. I definitely, I'm very good at learning my lines, and I always know my lines. I love both. I really love improv as a tool, especially for comedy. I'm not so much a fan of improvising drama. I've had certain directors want me to do that, and sometimes if you're trying to find the scene, if something's not working, it's helpful to kind of just loosen it up and shake it up, and you never know what could happen. And I love that about it, but I love both. I really genuinely love acting, and I love the process of breaking down a script and bringing someone else's words to life. Like, to me, doing that but making it seem like it's improvised is like the goal always. But I always am down to improvise, and I think I probably always do a little bit. But I also prefer to just like do it the old-fashioned way. So I like both.
Have you ever gone back to do improv or stand-up, or sketch stuff since you've been doing movies and stuff? And does it feel different having made TV and movies since?
I haven't really. I've done like a couple. Well, I hosted the Independent Spirit Awards. Two times in a row, and that was actually really fun because it was the first time in a really long time that I got to do stand-up in front of a live audience, because it's a live award show on live television. And so I really, it all came back to me when I hosted those shows, because I was like, oh my God, I'm telling jokes up here. I gotta get my ass to the Comedy Cellar and work this shit out, because stand-up is hard. Comedy's hard, it's not for me like riding a bike. You really have to work at it. You have to go up every night, and the people that are good at it, they go up every night. Like they don't mess around. So I haven't done a ton of it, and but every now and again I'll get an opportunity to. Oh, well, Kat Adams is a serial killer, so that's one difference. She is a serial killer who has killed multiple people. She is a dangerous criminal, so dangerous that when they bring her out of jail, if you remember, she's wearing a Hannibal Lecter mask, which is one of the reasons why I took on that part. Because I was like, now this character is dangerous. If people think I've been dangerous before, wait until you see this. So totally different, but I love that you're comparing them. That's mind-blowing. But she's a serial killer. That's my answer. I just try to never compromise, and I try to support whatever director I'm working with, like, to the best of my ability, so that they don't have to compromise the movie. That's my main priority as a producer, is how can we do this without compromising the film? Because that's what happens when you make movies, especially independent films. So many things happen, and people just compromise. They just go, all right, we'll cut that scene, or we'll move this location, or we'll change this, or whatever. And then sometimes you just, little by little, you've changed the movie completely. You don't even realize it until you get in the editing room. So I'm always focused on like remembering why we're doing it in the first place, staying true to that, and staying true to the vision of the movie that we want to make. And then just doing everything I can to navigate all the bullshit, you know, because there's so much of it, at least while we're shooting anyways. But I think it's just about the people you work with too, you know. It's like I like to work with people that I like, that are inspiring and collaborative. And I think if you find the right people, it's easier to navigate all the kind of politics of the business side of it. It's always a challenge though, but it's just about trying not to compromise. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, for me anyways, like I think the best advice I was given was just say yes and just do as much as you can with as many different people that you can, because you never know what could lead to what. And it's true, you can be in the right place at the right time, but a lot of times you're in the right place at the right time because of the work that you've done to get yourself to that place. And that was true for me. Like I feel when I got that, like kind of my big break, really, like when I got these really big parts, like up until that point I was making my own stuff, making my own sketch videos and writing my own sketch comedy shows and doing, you know, live shows and just meeting as many different people as I can. And because you kind of just never know who you're going to meet that will then think of you for something else. So I think it's like being really open is advice that I would give to people trying to break in is just be really open, say yes, you know, just do anything, do everything. And also just, you know, as an actor anyway, like show who you are, because everybody is unique. And I think a trap that a lot of young actors fall into, and I definitely did, is to try to be who you think everybody wants you to be, or try to be something that you think like, well, they must want this, so I'm gonna be like this. But when you're just starting out, it's like better to kind of be authentically true to yourself, because then you will be unique, because there's no one that's you. So I would say, like, yeah, just do you, like be you and say yes. Well, I loved Letterman, but he's gone. And I think, honestly, I would say Conan is my favorite. I mean, I love Stephen Colbert as well. I love Colbert. I love going on his show. But Conan and I just it's like whenever he's like, I would consider him a friend. It's not like we talk on the phone or anything. I wish we would, but he never calls. But I feel like whenever I'm with Conan, it's like we turn into like little kids, and it just gets really silly really fast. And that's like my favorite thing. I love him, so I pick him. I mean, I can't help but be like, I think, you know, honestly, like I guess I'm assuming you're talking about just like, yeah, me on talk shows and me being, or I don't know what it is, but I feel like I just can't help but be me. And I definitely there have been times when, you know, certain people have been like, you know, just, you know, be more likable, maybe try that or whatever. And I'm like, well, I think I'm likable, so I don't know what you're talking about. But I don't know. I think for me, it's like, I guess I think I'm pretty grounded, but I think the thing that grounds me is just like, honestly, my friendships. Like a lot of the people that I'm friends with, I've known forever, since I was a kid or something. So I guess the connections that I have and the people that I spend my time with, it's like I don't ever really want to forget who I am. So I surround myself with people that really know me, instead of, you know, fake people that think they know me or whatever. And so I guess I do that, but yeah, I don't know.
Makes sense.
But it's cool to be weird. I mean, yeah. That's not fair, because I have so many favorite movies for so many different favorite reasons. But I guess to be true to like the 12-year-old me, I would have to say the 1954 version of A Star Is Born, starring Judy Garland, because that is probably, I don't know, one of the most, that was a very, very, very important film to me, and I was a very big Judy Garland obsessed child growing up. I don't know why. I had a real connection to her. I watched everything that she was in, and I bought the CD store out of all her CDs. I bought all of the compilations of her CDs, and everyone was like, there are no more, you bought them all. And I'd be like, are you sure? And I don't know, that movie to me is like, I guess I just have to say that, A Star Is Born. But the Judy Garland version, because I just love Judy Garland, and I love that movie, and I wouldn't say, it's like, I have many favorite movies, but that one, in fact, I was doing an ADR session at Skywalker Post-Production Facilities, which is George Lucas's sound facility in California, and it's a really cool space, and he has his private collection of posters, original movie posters, and I got to be in a room, and there was this like one of his private collection posters of I think it was like an Argentinian poster of A Star Is Born. It was huge on the wall, and I was so distracted by it when I was doing ADR. I could barely do like the ADR that I was doing because I was just like staring at it, and I was like, why do I love this movie so much? I don't know. It's just so, there's just something about it. So that's what I'll end it on.
I know they just remade it, but if they ever did another one, would you ever want to do that role?
Yes, I'll do it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorted. I think we have to leave it there for now. But just to say that Emily the Criminal, there's a couple more screenings at the London Film Festival if you are able to go on Tuesday and Thursday. It's also getting a release in cinemas on the 24th of October. And we should say thank you to Universal for all their help in putting this together. And of course, a huge thank you. Well, thank you for being here, but please give it up for Aubrey Plaza.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.